Welcome to the world awaits.
Travel tales to inspire your wanderlust. Welcome back to the world awaits. I hope you've had a wonderful week, everyone. Before we kick off this episode, just a reminder about our current competition, which is for a night stay at the Moxie Sydney Airport Hotel, because who doesn't love an airport hotel? It is a little cracker, Kirstie.
It is such a great looking hotel and not your typical boring transit dive. So the prizes are night stay at the hotel, a welcome drink on arrival, buffet breakfast for two at Moxie Kitchen, and up to 14 nights free valet parking, 2 weeks free parking at the hotel. Amazing. So you can stay for one night and then go out on holiday without having to pay for your parking. And the total package is worth about more than $350. And you have a year to redeem the stay.
I know, it's an amazing prize, isn't it? And just 2 stops by train from Central. And if you are a total ab geek, you can ask about booking its runway room so you can lie in bed and watch the planes.
So to enter, just like, follow and tag. So jump onto the competition post on our Instagram or Facebook page, which is at The World Awaits and at Moxie Sydney Airport. Like the post, follow us, and for a bonus entry, take a friend.
Now, today we have another amazing celebration beside our giveaway, and that is our milestone 3rd birthday. We are 3. Kirstie, we're basically toddlers again. So we are so proud to say that we are Australia's leading independent weekly travel podcast. We're in the top 25% of all podcasts downloaded here in Australia. So happy birthday to us.
Happy birthday to us. Woo! So, Belle, looking back over our last 3 years, I can't believe it's been 3 years. It doesn't feel like it's been 3 years. We've now got 148 episodes, and we have covered everything from interviewing the founder of Lonely Planet to some pretty remarkable personal stories. So, what are some of your favourite episodes for listeners to go back and listen to, or listen to for the first time if they missed them?
What I love about this podcast is the ability to talk about places that aren't particularly well visited, like Afghanistan or riding horses in Mongolia or exploring the souks of Tunisia. You can't always get these stories into mainstream media. So that's what I love about the podcast, is we have that opportunity to explore these destinations. But I've got to say, it's kind of a surprise then that one of my favorite interviews is also my most recent, and that was with filmmaker Dee Whelan, about a place that I don't really have particularly strong links, and that's Canada. I mean, look, I've visited a few times, particularly a memorable adventure crossing on the Rocky Mountaineer train in winter, which they've now cancelled because there were avalanches all over the place. But Deant talking about 6 years hiking the Trans-Canada Trail really resonated with me, and I think it's just stupendous. But and then actually my second favorite interview is from another destination that isn't particularly off the beaten track, and that is Italy with Maria Pasquale, who's an Australian-Italian food writer based in Rome. And when Maria talks to me about ripe tomatoes and the scent of lemons on the Amalfi Coast, I am listening. She's so awesome. We've actually had her twice. She was on our first episode and again on the 26th. But I've got to say, episode 45, which was with Jenny Gray, we have traveled together in Saudi Arabia, and Jenny was talking about traveling specifically as a woman traveling in Saudi. And that's pretty much where my soul sits, because Jenny is from Intrepid Travel, and she's the person that set up those women-only expeditions. And her talking about places such as Iran, that just makes my heart sing. So I really love sharing those places. And, places like my place, like exploring Egypt, which I've been doing for nearly 2 decades, just talking about that sort of stuff. So there you go. So that's really what makes my heart sing. And what about you, Alaisdair?
Thanks, Belle. Hi, everyone. I'm Alaisdair. I'm the audio producer for The World Awaits. Happy 3 years. I'm so excited that we're here. Now, look, I don't want to take a page out of Belle's homework, but I might for this one. I think probably my favorite episode has been a very, very recent one. If you haven't heard the heartfelt story of Silva McLeod, the first Tongan woman to become an airline pilot, I could have listened to her all day long. She had so many amazing stories. The unedited interview is quite long, and I would love to put that up someday because I was in tears by the end of it. such a phenomenal woman, and I love that we got the chance to highlight her career and her journey and her story, because she's just incredible. You know, I am a massive movie fan, so listening to filmmaker Diane Whelan talk about the Trans-Canada Trail and having to lug all of the equipment and how they did that and everything they filmed, and then, you know, all of the things that you have to do to try and get your film released. It's such a journey, so that personally tickled my favorite bone. And look, I know they're new as well, but hot takes are my favorite thing. I love hearing, you know, the hot takes you're cooking up. The travel fashion one was probably my favorite because it is a hotly debated topic. I'm getting on a flight tomorrow, so it'll be definitely making me more aware of what I wear and noticing what other people wear now as well. But yeah, happy 3 years. It's been such a great journey, and I so cannot wait to hear many more incredible travel stories from so many people around the globe. What about you, Kirstie?
I loved hearing all of those from Belle and Alaisdair. Thank you. So we've covered a lot of my favourite topics too, which is namely hiking and biking, and also I love interviewing people who are doing right by the world, like doing things, give back to community. That's really something really dear to my heart. One of an interview very early on, way back episode 10, was with Charles Street, who's the founder of Indulges Adventures. And what he does is he actually transforms entire communities in South Africa by giving kids bikes. So you contribute as a traveller to donating to buying bikes, and then the bikes go to the community. And the reason it's so significant to the whole community is that these kids can then get to school and then get decent jobs. And the reality is that if they cannot do that, they, in extreme cases, end up poaching wild animals to make money. So this is a really significant, experience that you can do as a traveller with him. And he also had an incredible TEDx talk about this, and I'll put a link in the show notes. And then also along that same vein is episode 19 with Bill Bensley. Bill Bensley has the most remarkable hotel designs, incredible hotel designs. He's done 200 resorts and hotels and palaces in more than 30 countries, but he's also a conservationist and a philanthropist. And he, at his luxury tented camp, Shintamani Wild in Cambodia, they hire a wildlife alliance and they catch poachers and stop illegal logging. So they actually have a 258, probably more now, person private army, and they carry AK-47s, and they're responsible for about 2 million hectares. And so, yeah, they do incredible work, and he's fascinating to listen to. So shoot on back and listen to that one. And then my last few would be back to that adventure. So I'm going to say the incredible, remarkable story of Lucy Bernard, who's is episode 84, and she's the Australian woman walking the length of the earth. So she's attempting to be the first woman to walk from Argentina to Alaska, and she's covering 30,000 kilometres across 14 countries with her little dog Wombat in tow, and she was so interesting, fascinating to listen to. And then more recently, episode 130 with Tim Jarvis, who talked about undertaking 2 of the harshest and most extreme Antarctic expeditions. That was the Douglas Mawson and Ernest Shackleton survival journeys. He did these in the original clothing with the same gear that they used a century ago. I mean, how remarkable is that? And he talks about his laser expedition and how travel can inspire conservation. So if any of those episodes from Belle, Alaisdair and myself spark your interest, please head on back. We would love it if you went back and had a listen to some of those, our favourites. If you'd like to help support our production costs, you can buy us a coffee at coffee.com/theworldawaits. That's ko-fi.com/theworldawaits, so we can continue to bring you inspirational travel interviews with the world's best. This week, my guest is Belle, and we are talking about her recent trip to Japan, but she didn't do Japan like everybody else. What did you do, Belle?
Well, look, Japan, like many countries, has what they call the Golden Triangle, 3 places that everyone visits, and that is, of course, Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka. So this time back in Japan, I wanted to explore a bit further. So I went on a cruise ship.
This is fascinating because when you think Japan, you don't think cruise ship. So tell us what you were doing.
Yeah, look, looking for hidden Japan from the deck of a cruise ship. Stay with me here. I traveled with a Japanese liner called Mitsui Ocean Cruises, and they've been sailing through Japan for the local clientele for the past 30 years, and it has now expanded to cater for English-speaking guests as well. So I think this is really pertinent for us because incredibly, and actually this still blows my mind, that Japan has now overtaken Bali as Australia's top international travel destination. So, so moving away from those bottlenecks of places like Kyoto, although I've got to say the ships do sail from the port of Tokyo, Mitsui's mission is to bring tourism to the smaller ports. And whenever I talk to like the regional tourism boards, they always, they're looking at places like, the insane crowds that they talk about in Kyoto and the subsequent bad behavior that some of that brings. But the regional tourism boards are like, hey, listen, we'll take some of those visitors. So the first part of Mitsui's mission is to bring tourism to other parts of the country to benefit from that boom. So on our journey, we sailed from the port of Tokyo to Kobe, and then we had to go into international waters because of what is called cabotage laws. And we sailed to Busan in South Korea, and then back into Japan to a couple of ports, Saiki, Wakayama, Toba, and then back to Tokyo.
So tell us a bit about what the ship was like. Were you did you have some luxurious cabins?
Well, it's really interesting. A couple of years ago, Mitsui bought 2 high-end small ships from the ultra-luxury liner Seabourn. They are the Odyssey and the Sojourn, which will probably be familiar to Australian cruisers. In fact, I actually sailed from Darwin to Hong Kong on the Sojourn when it was still very new on one leg of its world tour. It was crazy. It was just a beautiful ship. I did have the owner's cabin, I think, at that point. It was a really long time ago because they launched those ships in 2009. So Mitsui has bought them in 2024 and then put them into dry dock and modified the ships for the local market. So the kitchens were already pretty much at sushi grade, but they were reset for Japanese chefs. And they put those Japanese toilets in with their ever warm seats, which I think if you're in wintry Melbourne right now, you'd be like, bring one of those babies home to me. So they modified the ships, gave them a refresh as well. Most of the ships have got balconies. There is a grade below that simply has just giant windows if your budget doesn't stretch to those balconies. But the second part of this, it is a beautiful ship. It is a gorgeous ship. It's not the big, luxurious, dramatic, Swarovski crystal chandeliers, although it does have beautiful handmade chandeliers because you can't have a cruise ship without a chandelier, right? But the second part of this is that they offer Japanese experiences on board through the food and through the culture. So on sea days, we would find ourselves doing things like origami crafternoons or tea tasting. And we also experienced rakugo, which is the Japanese art of comedic storytelling, which I've got to say, even if you don't speak Japanese, which I don't, you've got to search up the performer that they had on ship. And his name is Santuti Rakudai, who is a rakugo performer, and his incredible storytelling skills will have you in stitches. If you've ever watched any Japanese anime, you'll hear him and you'll go, oh, now I understand. And that's the Japanese audience was in stitches, but that's the thing. It's stuff that you have learned about Japan from previous visits. And what this cruise really did for me was it just clicked it all together. Like I understood some of the things that I've seen in Japanese popular culture. Now I get it because I see its origins. So that's what I thought that was really fascinating because, Mitsui is not only Japanese owned, but the cruises have been targeted at the Japanese market. So now they run in both Japanese and English, and you've got English language shore excursions. But interestingly, the liner caps the local to international guest ratio at 70-30. So when you're doing your origami, we were surrounded by Japanese women all trying it as well, all doing the folding and the tick, 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 which is so amazing. And then when you inevitably stay up too late and you find yourself in a 70s disco night, you're on the dance floor with Japanese people on holiday and the Japanese dance team that's leading them. So you really actually got your feet in the country on a cruise ship.
I have to ask this question. What's the price point?
It budgets around $1,000 a day, which is so for our 6-day trip was just under $6,000. So that's which is, I don't know, how does that compare? How do you feel like compares?
Well, I mean, if you think about when you stay somewhere, if you stay in a luxury hotel, you would be paying, you could pay easily $1,000 a night, right? And then,
Yeah.
you don't get the inclusive that you get, obviously. So tell us a bit more about the food, because obviously most of us go to Japan for the food.
I know we go to stuff our chops. On this, there's a balance of Western and Japanese food. So you have the standard buffet, the pool lounger with the burgers and pizza scene, and there are a couple of specialty evenings, such as a sushi degustation. So you can always eat. Like I try to stay away from the burgers and the pizzas and stuff because I want that experience, that Japanese experience. So you can eat every meal in a Japanese setting. But then they've got specialities like this sushi degustation, which lets you really stretch out and experience things like, when you've been to Japan, have you eaten natto? You know, that fermented soybean, and it's really sticky. And have you tried it?
I think I have, yes. I know I've definitely tried it. I don't know when I was in Japan last time if I tried it there then, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because it absolutely stinks. It smells like something rotten. It is supposed to be incredibly healthy. It's enormously addictive. Japanese people love it. And what they love possibly more than natto is watching foreigners trying natto for the first time. So I was traveling with my 15-year-old. I was like, hey, Yasri, try this. Suddenly, all the staff just stop at the breakfast buffet, and they're watching to see what this kid. And she's a good kid. Like, I've trained her that she has to try everything once, and so she does. She's like, yeah, and she's like, oh, because it is so strong, it just goes straight up your nose and into your brain, and you're just like, oh my god, this is rotten soybean. But the health benefits outweigh it, and they love it. Like it's really a two-way exchange in that sense, and they're just like screaming with laughter because she's like almost gagging at the breakfast buffet. But so yeah, there are challenges on that. And if you're not really into seafood, I've got to say, if you were doing those sushi degustations, you've got to work at it a bit, because Japan's got that really heavy emphasis on seafood. But I think you would have loved it, Kirstie. But it's also got, of course, a bookable restaurant on there. Their fine dining restaurant, Hokusai, which is run by a Japanese celebrity chef, Kiyomi Mikuni, whose Japanese cuisine blends Japanese ingredients with traditional French culinary techniques. So, unsurprisingly, it was one of the best meals on the ship, but it was actually really reasonable because this was, how you've got to pay extra to book at those fine dining experiences. It was about $100 per person. It was exquisite. We were there for hours just snacking, and the food was not, it's not massive portions. So when they've got those 7 courses, they're actually really, you don't even notice them rolling along. You just got, really beautiful flavors. If you do like wine, absolutely add on the wine pairing, which starts with a French champagne, but then it goes into exploring fascinating Japanese wines and also their liqueurs, their aperitifs, and their digestives. So I think the food was as adventurous the food on ship was adventurous as you wanted it to be. So if you wanted to get that full Japanese dining cuisine immersion, you could absolutely do it. And if you were like, you know what, today I'm just going to like bomb out and shove, margarita pizzas down my face by the pool, you could do that as well. But the thing is that all of that is complemented by what's on shore, because every day, with the exception of the one sea day sailing over to Japan, to South Korea, we were doing shore excursions, and you're getting to experience them food on shore. So on our first day, we visited Kobe, which is, of course, famous for its beef. So when we're walking the streets, we were eating hot flash-fried Kobe beef at the street restaurants, which is, that refreshing break from sitting at the formality of a restaurant. But I've got to say, I think my favorite dining experience on board was on a sea day when we had the time to experience the Japanese breakfast set. And I did put it on Instagram, and I'm going to repost it for this one because it was incredible, Kirstie. Like, the breakfast comes delivered to you in this this like intriguing black lacquerware box, which is layered with tiny dishes of fruit or salad, scrambled egg, grilled eel. There was rice congee and miso. And you just unpack the whole thing, and it was like a beautiful jewel box with this most incredible food coming from the kitchens. And you just sit there for hours drinking green tea and trying it and watching all of this mountainous scenery of southern Japan going past. And I think it was an exquisite experience.
Yeah, amazing. And I mean, who would have thought you'd eat grill eel, or even eating raw fish for breakfast when I was in Japan was something that is, takes a bit to get your head around. But the food obviously is just remarkable. And those signature restaurants, like you mentioned, that I think US $100, absolutely, that's great for a specialty restaurant. Particularly if you're getting that degustation menu and matched wines, amazing. So as well as the specialty restaurants, spas have come a really long way. And was this ship any different?
Yeah, look, I mean, of course it's got a gym. I did bring my gym gear. I never got into the gym past the initial ship inspection on the first day, but I did get my step count when I was busting out on the shore excursions and, just running up and down the ship and exploring, like ships, they always consume, like they always take your step count out just racing, don't they? Like they're surprisingly deceptive in that sense. There was a Medi-Spa on board, and they would have, when you walk into the restaurant each morning, they'd offer to, it was a lot of focus on feet and stuff like that, on correcting your posture, things like that. So you'd be walking into breakfast and you find somebody had taken their shoes off and be at the spa, the girls would be telling them, stand here and we're going to take a print of your footprint. We're going to make an ink print of your foot and show you where your posture is unbalanced and stuff like that. So it's got that sort of Medi-Spa a component going on there. I was not going to spend a lot of time in the spa because I was too busy outside. But on the second last day, we were scheduled to visit the town of Toba, which has this gorgeous historic center with a 16th century castle. And it's also where Mikomoto pearls started. And that's where you've got these women freedivers. So I was really looking forward to it. But we had some incredibly rough, well, not incredibly rough. I thought it was, pretty mild, rough weather. There were a few vomiters. I was not amongst them. But because it was a tender port, so that means you can't just dock in right on land. You've got to more outside in the harbour, and then they run small tender ships into the shore. It was too rough for us to be able to visit, so we got this unexpected sea day, and the phone lines to the spa were ringing hot, and I was on the phone to them as well. So I was really lucky that I got a massage book. So there is a point in the massage where I've got just, got my spa knickers on, so almost nearly naked, lying on the bed, slathered in oil, having a fantastic massage. The ship is pitching back and forward, and I hear this tottering of feet as the tiny little masseuse is like rocking back and forward with me, trying to adjust her balance as he's massaging me. And I thought, if I fall off, it's all going to come undone here. I'll be stark naked, covered in oil, and just spin right across the decks. It was a great massage, but it was a really great massage, though, because they just do, it was like a part of one of their standard lovely massages. But I did say to them, instead of it was a 75-minute massage, can you chop, instead of doing the full body, just give me 20 minutes of that as a facial massage, which she did as well. And I was like, just beautiful. So there you go. There's my hot tip on those massages. And I thought I thought maybe I should belt myself to the massage table. And responsible mum, I think I told you about this later on. That was also, I turned my phone off as well. That was when my daughter was actually texting me going, Mum, I don't feel so well. If this takes the only time I was disconnected from her. And then I found out she might have been actually one of the vomiters, which I was really surprised about. I thought she was like cast iron stomach like her mum, but
but no, she's very well travelled, but maybe there's a big difference when it comes to that sort of experience. My gosh, I get seasick too. It's terrible. There's nothing worse, and once it hits you, it hits you. There's but yeah, would look, at least you didn't roll off that table. That would have been.
It was a close thing. Let me tell you.
Oh my God. So you talked a bit about some of the places that you went. So what did you actually do? What were some of the best excursions? Because this is what these trips are all about, right? It's about, I mean, and like you said, the great thing is you didn't really have many sea days. So you were getting off the ship a lot.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Look, I've got to say, we were there toward the end of the sakura season, the cherry blossom season, and because we were down south, by that stage, there's the cherry blossoms flower. The it goes north. That season goes north. So we were down south, toward the tail end of it, but we got lucky in Wakayama, which is one of those incredibly historic cities. It has the classic castle and cherry blossom shot. It was at this, with this beautiful Edo era castle that was first built in the late 1500s. And of course, it's a sobering reminder, of course, that that this castle was bombed finally in 1945. So it's had a lot of rebuilds on it. But so, you're walking up and they're all set on mountains as good castles should be. And you get to explore them and the histories of it, and then look down at the modern rebuilds of the city below. Gardens were another big part of it. Beautiful, beautiful, soft green gardens. We went to a gardens dating from the 1800s in Wakayama. And I've got to say, that was actually one of the great, we had a kaiseki, like a traditional lunch experience there at a restaurant called Ganko Wakayama. And it was really extraordinary because you're in a ryokan-style building set in gorgeous gardens. All the dishes, like each setting for that one probably would have had maybe 30 small, beautiful ceramic dishes per person. So,
Wow.
yeah, I know, and you just get to really experience the food from a particular era and from a dining style as well.
I
And
love how you bring everything back to food, Belle.
I was just thinking, gotta stop talking about food. We did do on that day lacquerware painting as well, which is a really traditional Japanese craft as well. I actually I know we're talking about Japan, but we did do a day stop in Busan, which is the port city and the second city of South Korea, which I hadn't been to. Most of my time in South Korea had been spent in the north, in Seoul and further above. So I was really fascinated to go to Busan, and I've got to say, it was so much fun. Planet Korea does not disappoint. It is just like a totally bizarre. We went to this incredible sea temple where there were monks and lanterns and Squid Game themed cookies. There were girls dressing up in hanbok, the traditional South Korean or Korean dresses. They're like gigantic A-pop murals. And if you do go to Busan, you cannot miss Gamcheon Cultural Village, which is it's kind of like an artist colony in a way, and every building is painted in different, outrageous pastels and bright pinks and blues and stuff like that. So it was really beautiful. But what I did do there, Kirstie, is we hit Olive Young. And if you don't know what Olive Young is, it's kind of like the Chemist Warehouse of Japan, maybe a little bit more upmarket. Remembering I had a 15-year-old with me, and actually a group of us just made our list of the things that we wanted to buy, and we threw ourselves in there. And it was like I was in a lolly shop. We bought sheet masks infused with everything from snail mucus to white truffle. There's Japan has had this, South Korea and Japan have had this ingredient, PDRN, in their face masks. It was the secret ingredient for a long time. And they infused it into everything in their skincare. And it was a thing that apparently gives you, that glass skin trend that is so hot there right now. PDRN is also known as salmon sperm. And that's what you're putting on your face when you are putting on a PDRN makeup. Skin sticker, like it was just incredible, and the service was amazing, and we just it was insane. So Busan actually was one of the highlights on it. I will say that the beautiful part of it was that every time we pulled into port, the city would set up displays and let us go so you could walk off the ship and taste the wine that they produce. Maybe you have the umeboshi, which is those pickled plums that are so sour that they just about make your eyes shrivel back into your head. Another one was famous for its ramen. So they had like these giant mascots of dancing like people in costume, which is how you end up dancing with a giant ramen bowl on the shore. And they would have brass bands that played until the ship sailed. And it was actually really beautiful and emotional. So I just thought it was absolutely spectacular. And it really felt like a genuine connection and a soulful connection with the people of those small cities. And very
Yeah, that's so nice. And I'll put salmon sperm on my face if it makes it glow. I'm up for anything that'll make me it'll make my face glow at this age. All right. So what's actually included in the sailing, and also how do you book, and sorry, multiple questions. And when's the best time to travel?
Yeah, well, look, it is smoother sailing between May and September. That doesn't mean you're out of the peak cherry blossom season too. So the benefit of that is that actually, like in Sakura season, direct flights from Australia can be almost impossible, which they were for us, or brutally expensive. So I ended up actually flying with Garuda via Jakarta. When you book with Mitsui, it includes all meals except that fine dining experience, and the restaurants include. They have a gin cart, Kirstie, a gin cart. Japan has some fascinating gins, which they experiment with purified water and things like that. There are some top shelf spirits and wines that you'll pay extra for, but I was able to explore the Japanese wine scene and spirits without going there. And if you're going to book, Mitsui is represented in Australia and New Zealand by a specialist cruise company called Cruise Traveller, and you can visit their website at cruisetraveller.com.au.
Our tip this week is from tour operator Inspiring Vacations, which has ranked how easy it is to get out of the airport at some of Europe's most popular destinations, because we all know how hard it is when you've been flying 26 plus hours and then you have a long commute at the other end.
So the ranking scores each city and airport on transfer times, the service frequency, the cost in Australian dollars, the distance to the airport, and the distance to a major landmark. And the easiest airport to arrive in Europe is Pisa, because it is just a 5-minute train ride from the terminal, 2 kilometres from the city, and of course it is a close distance to the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And second on the list is Vilnius in Lithuania, which is just 7 minutes by train, which costs about $1.20 to cover the 6 kilometres. And Vilnius's old town is just is a joy to walk through.
And rounding out the top 5 is Geneva in Switzerland, which is only 7 minutes by Swiss Federal Railways train at about $5, 5 kilometres. And Bologna in Italy is only 7 minutes on the Marconi Express monorail, which is about $18. It's 7 kilometres. And Copenhagen's so easy to get around, right? And you can get the DSB Metro train. If you get the 24-hour ticket, I had that when I was there, you have unlimited access to all the buses and trains, and it's just so easy to get around. It's only $8 and 8 kilometres. But yeah, so that rounds out the top 5.
At the opposite end of the rankings, the most stressful airports to get out of are, the most stressful one is it is Reykjavik in Iceland. There are no direct trains. There is a 45-minute fly bus. It costs nearly $50, and it is 50 kilometres to the city centre. And I've got to say, I've had that experience in the north, in the high Nordic countries quite a few times. And apparently you've got to navigate lava fields and things like that to get from the airport into the city centre, which just cracks me up. Milan also has rated very poorly in this survey. It takes 52 minutes on the Malpensa Express. It costs over $21, and it's also 50 kilometres from the city centre. And Ljubljana in Slovenia, there is no direct train. There is a Go Opti bus. It takes 45 minutes to travel 26 kilometres to the city centre. So convenient it is not.
Yeah, and rounding that out is Munich in Germany, which is also 45 minutes and about $30, and it's 37 kilometres a city. And Inspiring Vacations CEO and co-founder Paul Ryan says travellers often assume that the bigger the city, the easier the arrival, but it's usually the opposite. He says Paris, Rome and London all have fast express trains, but they come at a premium and the total journey still takes time. And when Australians are building European itineraries, the first and last cities of the trip matter the most, as that's obviously when exhaustion. There's nothing worse, right, than you get to Europe and you have to travel for an hour to get to your destination. So if you start in Pisa, Geneva or Copenhagen, you're at the hotel within 30 minutes. And we're all going to love that. So we will put a link in the show notes.
Can I just add something there? Sorry, I was just going to say, that is also the time when you get ripped off as well, when you arrive in a place and it doesn't have a great link from the airport. And that's when you get fleeced by your taxi drivers, by your dodgy limo drivers, with the broken meters and stuff like that, because you're disorientated from a long haul flight and they haven't made it easy for you. Next week, I'm teaming up with Alaisdair, our sound producer. We are getting the band back together. Alaisdair and I are going to talk about travel movies, about what you should be watching on the way to where you're going, destinations that you should be visiting when you're there as well, and just some of the dreamiest and most gorgeous travel movies that are on the market.
And then we kick straight into our winter series. So stay with us because you're going to love this. We've got some great eps to bring back for you. So we would love it if you followed us on socials. You'll find us at The World Awaits Podcast on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. And feel free to drop us a line at hello@theworldawaits.au. Or if you're enjoying this episode or any others, please give us a rating and review.
That's a wrap for The World Awaits this week. Click to subscribe anywhere you listen to your favourite pods.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.